It's that time of year again. Summer is coming to an end, and it is nearly time for kids to head back to school for the 2020 to 2021 school year. But we all know that with California schools responding to a pandemic, this school year, at least the beginning of it, will not look or feel like a normal school year. In July, Governor Newsom announced that any school located within counties on the state's COVID-19 monitoring list must begin school in the fall with a distance learning model. You can check the list at this link, but for now, Los Angeles County is on that list. That means that all schools within LA County, including Antelope Valley schools, must begin the year with at-home distance learning. Schools can transition to at-school learning when their county has been taken off the monitoring list for 14 days in a row. It is possible that your student's school won't be using a distance learning model for the entire school year, but it is a good idea to know what to expect as your student returns to a school routine. You may be thinking that you already know what distance learning will look like for your student, since schools in California moved to a distance learning model back in March for the remainder of the 2019-2020 school year. However, the state has given more requirements for schools and districts offering distance learning. Teachers are now required to have daily live interaction with students each school day. This can happen through your student logging into a live class taught by their teacher or through phone checkups with your student. Students must also receive a minimum amount of instruction per day for the full 180 days of schools, which can be a combination of the time a student spends learning from their teacher in a virtual lesson and the time it takes to do any independent or group work that is assigned. Kindergartners must receive a minimum of 3 hours of instruction per day. Grades 1 through 3 must receive a minimum of 3 hours and 50 minutes, and grades 4 through 12 must receive a minimum of 4 hours. Schools now have to take students' attendance and track their participation in their distance learning classes every day, so make sure you encourage and support your student with logging into their classes so they are not marked absent or classified as truant. Your school should contact you to help support your student if they are experiencing trouble with attendance for more than 3 school days in a week to make sure your student stays engaged and gets the instruction they need. The requirement to provide special education and necessary accommodations to students with special education needs has not changed. Schools are still required to provide academic help to students with disabilities, as well as to English learners, students in foster care, students experiencing homelessness, and any other student who needs it. For parents of students with disabilities, it is important to remember that your student still has a federal and state right to an individualized education plan, or IEP, that provides them with equal access to the services, resources, and supports given to other students. However, changes to the way that education and services are delivered while on a distance learning model in most cases will require changes or amendments to students' IEPs, both to allow the student to make progress in education program and to put a plan in place for when schools reopen or when schools need to move in and out of distance learning. While schools in Los Angeles County are not meeting in person, a student's IEP team should virtually meet as soon as possible to change or clarify the IEP to make sure that the student still receives services and support on their goals while their program is delivered through distance learning. Since all LA County schools are using a distance learning model, the school must make sure every student has the technology and internet connectivity they need to participate and make all needed accommodations if they do not. Schools still have to meet state academic standards with distance learning instruction, meaning that work given to students must be appropriate, rigorous, and aligned to the curriculum. Communication between you, your student, and your school is more important than ever. Schools should communicate regularly with caregivers on student progress. It is important to remember that your student may have trouble transitioning from summer to distance learning. Be sure to communicate with your student's teacher if they are experiencing a lack of motivation or focus or are acting out during their virtual classes. Students should not be removed from their online learning classes as a form of discipline. If they are removed from class, they must be allowed to tell their side of the story and always have a right to learn and access instructional materials. If your student is suspended, expelled, transferred to another school, or referred to the School Attendance Review Board during distance learning, contact Neighborhood Legal Services as soon as possible for legal support. Since there are clearer guidelines for distance learning as we enter the 2020 to 2021 school year, it is important to know how you can advocate for your student and make sure they continue to have access to a quality education. If you think there is something your school or district needs to change when it comes to how they are educating your student during distance learning, make sure to reach out to your teacher, your principal, or your district superintendent in writing as soon as possible so that the problem can be fixed. If the problem continues, there are other ways to enforce your students' education rights, such as by filing a Uniform Complaint Procedure or UCP complaint with the school district or with the California Department of Education. There are other types of complaints you can make depending on your situation, and for information and support on ways to advocate for your student during distance learning, contact Neighborhood Legal Services for information and legal assistance. Thank you for watching this video. Be sure to check out our other distance learning videos, and again, feel free to contact us at Neighborhood Legal Services for any further legal help you need with advocating for your public school student.